Hi, I'm Ambrose Hill and behind the camera is Ali Dori, and today we're demonstrating energy trading on the smart grid. So today we will be demonstrating an Ethereum private network with a Python network implemented on top of it to show you how a consumer and a producer can trade energy with guaranteed payment without a third party. So the devices we're using today are two Raspberry Pis. This is the consumer, this is the producer, and then the MacBook Pro for the miner of the network. The reason we're using a Python network implemented on top of the blockchain network is to allow the producers and consumers to communicate with each other without having transactions mined into the blockchain. I will now walk you through what a standard trade process will look like. So a producer and consumer will meet on the network and start negotiating a price and amount. Once an agreed price and amount is found, the consumer will send a commit to pay message to the miners of the network. The miners of this network will then store that commit to pay until it receives an event from the smart contract on the network that the trade has been completed. The way this works is that once the miner has the commit to pay, that commit to pay will then also be propagated around the network. Once the producer hears that commit to pay, he will start producing the energy. The energy will be sent to the consumer, who will have a smart meter recording energy intake. Once it reaches the right amount of energy, it produces an energy receipt confirmation, which gets propagated to the smart contract. The smart contract will make sure that there is an associated commit to pay, and then release a trade event, which will trigger the miner to send that signed transaction in the commit to pay message that was sent originally. I will now demonstrate that process. So, on the Raspberry Pi, we have a consumer that has about 1,400 Ether, and on the MacBook Pro we have a miner who is just waiting to get some commit to pays. So the miner has about 1,400 Ether, and what we'll do is we'll commit to pay the other miner about 500 Ether. That will then pick up and be sent to the miner. So over here on the miner, on the screen, there is a commit to pay that has been received and is now being stored in the miner's commit to pay database. Over here, back on the consumer, assuming the consumer receives the energy, he will produce a receipt that also contains information. That receipt will then be propagated to the smart contract, and the smart contract will release a trade event, assuming that it all worked out. Once that trade event has been picked up by the miner, that miner will then send that signed transaction to the blockchain to be mined, and once that has been mined, that is the guarantee of payment. This is sometimes a little bit of a delay since we are waiting for a blockchain block to be mined, as well as the smart contract processing time. And there it is, so the trade event has been received and the raw transaction has been sent. So now if we head over back to the consumer, he should only have about 999 Ether, or 900 Ether exactly. There's also another scenario that we have prepared for. Essentially, a commit to pay has been sent, a producer and consumer have negotiated a price and amount, a commit to pay has been sent. However, the producer is malicious and will not send the energy in the hopes that the miner will send that signed transaction in any case. What we have implemented to get around that is a timer that each node or each consumer sets once they've sent a commit to pay. The producer then has to send the required energy within that time frame, otherwise that consumer will automatically send a CTP delete event to the smart contract, which will of course double check that the payment or the energy has not been received, and then propagate that around. The miners will pick that up and delete it from the mining database. So over here on the MacBook, we will commit to pay that consumer, again, 500 Ether, but this time we won't generate the receipt. So what we'll find is that the miner will pick up that second commit to pay, and then it will begin to wait for the trade event to be emitted from the smart contract. However, that trade event will never come because the energy receipt will never be generated, and as a result, the node will time out and generate that CTP deleted event. and that will effectively remove the guaranteed minimum payment, and it means the trade is effectively over. So that's the timer expiring on the node. So just like how the ERC has to be propagated to the smart contract, that CTP deleted message has to be propagated to the smart contract, and then that smart contract will release an event which will signal the miners to delete the CTP from the database. And there's the CTP deleted event, which means the signed transaction has now been removed from the database, which has effectively entered the trade, and those producer and consumers are now free to trade again. I hope you enjoyed this demo.